Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue following the intense and emotional story of CEO James and Diep. A journey not only of love, but also of sacrifice, trust and justice. In the previous episode, tragedy struck when Diep lost her second child due to John's cruel scheme. Both James and Diep were overwhelmed with grief, but it was also in that painful moment that they realized if they wanted to protect each other and prevent further tragedies, the first step was to leave that dangerous place. After a short time of rest and emotional recovery, James took Diep to live with her aunt and uncle, the only people she could trust at this point. James temporarily set aside his personal emotions, focusing all his time and resources on the investigation. He didn't just want answers. He wanted to make sure John paid for every crime he had committed. But no one could have expected what came next, a shocking twist from none other than Trang. Trang, the one who had once walked the fine line between betrayal and redemption, suddenly reappeared with an action that stunned both James and Diep. She provided crucial information about John's next move and even helped James avoid a potentially fatal trap during the investigation. This raises an important question. Is Trang truly remorseful and trying to help, or is this just another part of a more elaborate scheme? Can James remain sharp enough to tell truth from lies? And Diep, after all the pain she's endured, should she believe in Trang's change of heart? A new chapter in the battle between light and darkness is beginning to unfold. Stay tuned for today's episode to witness the thrilling twists, unexpected turns, and find out if justice will arrive in time before John strikes again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. We are getting closer than ever to the truth. After James brought Diep back to her aunt and uncle's peaceful countryside home, he didn't leave right away. He stayed and had a long conversation with her uncle, a man he trusted to take care of and protect Diep in the days to come. James sincerely shared about Diep's current health. After the traumatic loss of her child, her mental state was still fragile. She often struggled with insomnia and sudden panic attacks. James didn't hide the fact that John, the man behind all the tragedies, might still try to harm Diep. That's why he earnestly asked her uncle to be extra vigilant, not only to help Diep feel loved, but also to ensure she felt completely safe within the arms of her family. Her uncle listened quietly to everything James said. At first, his face was somber, then slowly softened into a gentle smile. He patted James reassuringly on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, son. Diep is family now, and I'll take care of everything. No matter what happens, I won't let her face anything alone." Those simple but heartfelt words gave James some peace of mind as he prepared to leave. As for Diep, she understood that time wouldn't stop to wait for her pain to fade. She knew she couldn't allow herself to be consumed by grief forever. James was out there fighting, for her, for justice, and she too needed to be strong, to become the solid support he could lean on. Though not fully recovered, Diep tried to maintain a normal routine. Each morning she got up early to take care of Sho, the little calf she had raised since their days in the city, and led her out to graze in the fields. Under the soft sunlight, walking beside Sho like an old friend, Diep felt a bit more at peace. In the afternoons, she helped her aunt with cooking, laundry, and household chores. The physical work, though tiring, helped clear her mind and left little room for painful memories to linger. By evening, the whole family would gather around a modest but cozy meal. Her cheerful uncle told stories. The children laughed and ran around, and warm laughter echoed throughout the little house. These small, precious moments became a kind of medicine, slowly healing Diep's heart, helping her regain her faith in family, in life. After Diep's tragedy, James didn't allow himself even a moment of weakness or surrender. He knew one thing for certain. Only when John was brought to light and held accountable for everything he had done would Diep truly be safe, free to live a peaceful life. Determined, James proactively reached out and worked closely with the police. Officers who had known him for years, including his close friend Tianj, a seasoned investigator, quickly joined the case. They didn't stop at gathering statements or background information. Instead, they went straight to James's company, the very place John had once used as a front for his shady dealings, to collect evidence and hold a private meeting. At that meeting, James held nothing back. He laid out all the unusual signs, the suspicious activities John had been involved in, as well as the threats, accidents, and confrontations that he and Diep had experienced, events which, in hindsight, were likely far from coincidental. What alarmed the team even more was this: John wasn't just driven by ambition or personal vengeance. According to new leads from the authorities, he might be connected to a major drug trafficking network currently under high-priority investigation in the city. A tangled web of criminal ties, suspicious financial flows, and clandestine meetings involving John were slowly being pieced together. In response, the investigation team committed to launching a special operation, a task force composed of elite law enforcement units. A dedicated team would be assigned to track John, gather further intelligence, and dismantle the entire criminal organization behind him. James felt deeply grateful for the police's swift and determined actions. He pledged his full cooperation, ready to provide any data, evidence, or personnel the authorities might need. Though his concern for Diep's safety remained heavy on his mind, James believed this special operation could be the turning point. Justice would be served, and he would keep fighting, not only to protect his family, but to make sure that people like John never had another chance to hurt anyone again. After the meeting with the officers ended, James returned to the company to handle the backlog of work. He knew that during the past weeks, while caring for Diep and assisting with the investigation, he hadn't been able to keep a close eye on internal operations. That's why he arranged a private meeting with Trang, the executive secretary, who had been directly responsible for contracts and financial settlements during his absence. The meeting took place in James's private office. Trang came fully prepared with reports, financial summaries, and a list of documents requiring his approval. Throughout the session, James couldn't hide his satisfaction. He flipped through the pages, carefully reviewing the figures, then looked up at Trang with genuine appreciation. "Thank you, Trang. I've been so preoccupied with Diep lately that many things at the company got delayed. I truly appreciate how you've kept everything running so smoothly." Trang smiled softly, somewhat reserved. She didn't say much, just nodded gently. But deep down, she was experiencing a different kind of emotion, no longer driven by ambition or jealousy, but a quiet peace in knowing that the man she once loved now trusted and respected her in a different way, pure and sincere. James continued, his tone sincere. "If there's anything urgent or that needs my immediate attention, don't hesitate to tell me. I'll do my best to stay on top of things. For the rest, if possible, please help me keep the company running. That way, I can focus on taking care of Diep and our little family." At that moment, there was a gentler light in Trang's eyes. For years, she had silently loved James, envied Diep, and even lost herself by engaging in actions that hurt others. But now, seeing James, tired yet unwavering in his devotion to the woman he loved, Trang suddenly realized, to love someone doesn't always mean you must possess them. Her voice softened. "Don't worry. I'll handle everything here and keep you updated. Just take care of Diep. I'll support you however I can." James looked at her warmly. He didn't mention past misunderstandings, the pain, or the mistakes. He simply said, "I see you as family now. Whatever happened before, I hope from now on we can work together to build something better and genuinely care for each other. I love Diep, but I've always respected you." Those words moved Trang deeply. In that moment, she no longer felt like someone left behind, not a third wheel, not a failure. She felt respected, forgiven, and that was the beginning of something new. She bowed her head slightly, eyes glistening with tears, yet her smile was gentler than ever. "I understand. As long as you're happy, that's enough for me." That evening, as Trang returned home after a long and tense day at work, she suddenly froze at the gate. The dim streetlight cast a shadow on a familiar car parked right in front of the house. John's car. Her heart immediately began to race. She stepped quietly inside, careful not to make a sound. Through the slightly ajar living room door, she realized it wasn't just John. Her father was there too, his face more tense and serious than she'd ever seen before. They were speaking in hushed tones, as if afraid someone might overhear. Trang held her breath, pressing herself against the wall, silently eavesdropping. We need to act soon. That girl Diep has to disappear. She's the last link. Once she's gone, James will collapse. John's voice hissed like a man intoxicated with power. The kidnapping has to be clean, no traces left behind. Once it's done, everything will be ours. Her father didn't say much, just nodded. And that nod shook Trang to her core. She knew all too well. Once John was involved, this wouldn't stop at just kidnapping. Diep would be harmed. Maybe she'd never come back. In that moment, two conflicting thoughts tore through her mind. On one side was the selfish desire that had quietly smoldered for years. If Diep disappeared, James would have no one left. Without Diep, maybe, just maybe James, would return to her, the woman who had stood by him all these years. But on the other side was the painful truth she couldn't ignore. If anything happened to Diep, James would fall apart. Trang had seen the look of unimaginable pain in his eyes when Diep lost their child. She had witnessed the silent despair in the man she loved. If he lost Diep again, he'd never be the same James, the man she once fell for. Trang clenched her fists, her heart in turmoil. She stared toward the light coming from the living room, casting shadows across the face of the father she once deeply respected. But this time, she couldn't stay silent. She couldn't let something that horrible happen. Right after overhearing the sinister conversation between John and her father, Trang didn't hesitate for a second. She knew that time was of the essence. Even a moment's delay could put Diep in serious danger. There was no time for a phone call, no time to think. Trang jumped on her motorbike and sped straight toward Diep's uncle and aunt's house, the place James had told her Diep was staying to recover. The wind whipped against her face, her hair tangled in a rush, but her mind was focused on one thing. She had to get there before John's men. She had to save Diep. When she arrived, Trang came to a sudden stop and ran around the house, but Diep was nowhere to be seen. Her heart pounded in panic, breath short and fast. She asked a nearby villager and learned that Diep had gone into the forest early that morning to gather medicinal herbs. Trang swallowed hard, anxiety rising in her chest. The forest. Diep would be an easy target there. With no better option, Trang chose to wait near the entrance to the house, eyes fixed on the path leading out from the forest. Time dragged painfully. Even the rustling leaves in the wind made her jump with worry. Then, after more than an hour, Diep finally appeared, walking out of the woods with a cloth bag full of herbs. Trang exhaled in relief. But in that very instant, she spotted two figures lurking behind a bush not far away. They were John's men. Without a second thought, Trang rushed toward Diep. Her breath came in gasps, but she forced a faint smile. Diep, what a coincidence. I was passing by and saw you, so I thought I'd stop and say hi. Diep looked surprised at first, her eyes wide. But then a gentle smile appeared on her face. Trang, you came all the way here? Thank you. It's really nice to see you. Trang's heart sank. Despite everything, all the wrong she had done, Diep still spoke to her with kindness, respect, and trust, as if no distance or betrayal had ever existed between them. Trang lowered her head, unable to hide the guilt in her eyes. But she kept her tone casual, pretending it was nothing. It's dangerous to be in the forest at this hour. I have my bike here. Let me give you a ride home. You really shouldn't be out alone anymore. Diep looked a bit surprised but nodded without suspicion. And at that moment, Trang gently squeezed her hand, as if to reassure both Diep and herself, and quickly led her away, out of sight from the two men watching them. Thanks to Trang's swift and compassionate action, Diep was saved. Trang had done the right thing. She not only saved Diep from a kidnapping plot, she also redeemed a part of her own conscience. So, has Trang truly changed? Was she genuinely trying to right her wrongs and protect Diep, or was this all just part of a deeper plan, still hidden beneath the surface? Her perfectly timed appearance, her decisive rescue, it all seemed almost too perfect. But was her kindness born from a true awakening? Or was it just a calculated performance? Meanwhile, James and the police are racing against time to track down John, the mastermind behind all these cruel schemes. But will they gather enough evidence? Will they expose the full extent of John's crimes before he strikes again? The truth is drawing closer, and soon the masks will fall.
Stay tuned for the next episode tomorrow to find out. Will justice be served? Can James truly protect Diep to the end? And what path will Trang choose? As she stands at the edge between darkness and light, don't miss it.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người. Rất lâu rồi thì mình mới lại làm video trên kênh Lý Tử Diệp này. Và cũng lên video mới thì mình rất mong được sự ủng hộ của mọi người. Bởi vì mọi người cũng thấy là tình trạng của kênh bữa nay là rất là ít lượt xem. Vì thế nên mình không có ra video đều được. Mong là mọi người sẽ ủng hộ kênh mình nhiều hơn, để kênh mình có nhiều lượt xem hơn, cũng như lượt tương tác nhiều hơn. Nếu như mà mọi người yêu quý kênh mình thì mọi người có thể like hoặc là để lại bình luận ở trên video, để video có thể được tương tác nhiều hơn. Và từ đó cũng sẽ là một động lực rất lớn để mình có thể ra video đều và hay hơn. Và mọi người ơi, mọi ý kiến đóng góp để có thể giúp cho kênh mình hoàn thiện và hay hơn thì mọi người có thể để ở phần bình luận giúp cho mình nha. Mình sẽ đọc sau đó và đúc kết và càng ngày càng cải thiện để chất lượng kênh được càng ngày càng tốt hơn. Và cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì đã dành thời gian theo dõi video hôm nay. Chúc mọi người một ngày thật là tốt lành. Xin chào tạm biệt mọi người và hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo nha.